They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together rookie, the Addams family. Their house is a museum where people come to see 'em. They really are a scream, the Addams family. And now I'm making a video of this show and I will talk about it in the next 10 minutes, I think. Hello, it's Gibson Shamar, and we're going to talk about the Addams family in this video. As you can see, this is a show that's very dear to me because it made a lot of evenings in my childhood. Really, this show was like the second last one they used to show on Cartoon Network throughout the day. So I'd only watch it on Fridays and Saturdays. It was a show that came on at 11:30 or something like that. 11:30, 11:35, 11:40 p.m. And after that, there was just this really weird thing that used to come up. It was live action and just showed this person dressed up in this weird costume, and then he's running around with a white background and stuff. And then the channel just closes for a few minutes and then starts all over again. Yeah. Either way, this is the Addams Family Talk. If you've seen the previous videos where we talk about shows, you already know that I'm going to talk about the characters and then I'll talk about the show itself. So, here goes. The Addams Family is comprised of 8 members, at least on screen, right? Like the main characters and sometimes occasional guest appearances, like Gomez Addams, Morticia Addams, Pugsley Addams, Wednesday Addams, Cousin It, Lurch, Uncle Fester, and Granny. These are the, we can say, main characters or the core characters of the show. There are other people as well, like Thing and all these different uncles and aunts that are around that are actually kind of weird. There's this guy called Uncle Gonne, and I think they say that he's dead, or at least like he's always on the brink of death for some reason. It's a really dark show, but child-oriented dark. They don't actually show these things happening. They just talk about them and then just brush it off like it's normal. Very weird. The first character I'll talk about is Gomez Addams, the father of the family. He's an inheritor, I think. His family is rich and he owns that big house, which we find out is actually part of a reserve, which actually served to foil the plans of Norman Meyer, their nosy neighbor, who really hates them and wants them out of the neighborhood, but for some reason keeps stalking them. I don't really know why he doesn't just leave them alone. Maybe they'll learn to leave him alone as well, but I think that's the whole point of the show. Nosy neighbor gets annoyed by the people he hates, and he always has what's coming to him. So he tried to get rid of them, and, well, Gomez showed that the house can't be destroyed because it's part of a reserve, or it was built on a reserve, something like that. I don't know, but it can't be taken down or anything, constitutionally speaking. Gomez is a super lucky guy. Like, he really is lucky. He's so lucky. He's so good at everything he tries doing that there's an episode where he tried to fail, and he failed at that. He even invested in stock markets in things that were supposed to make him go bankrupt, and instead he gained around $6 billion in one day. I mean, even Uncle Fester was like, dude, is it possible for somebody to make this much money in one day? It was ridiculous. So he's also very much in love with his wife. He loves his wife so much. It's a running gag throughout the show that whenever she speaks a foreign language or just says anything, even if it's gibberish, he'll get turned on and, well, do stuff like
Chérie. You know what it does to me when you speak French or one of its many knockoff languages. Speak some more. Anything.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what it's like with Gomez. Next up, we have the matriarch of the family, Morticia Addams. She's very nice, charming, spooky, ghoulish, and probably a witch. I don't really know. But yeah, she's actually very endearing in a very dark way, though. The goth guy's dream girlfriend, basically. She's sweet, caring, oblivious to what the outside world thinks of her, but she does get her feelings hurt when people don't like her, so she is actually kind of normal. Unlike the others who don't really understand when people don't like them or are scared of them. Morticia, she seems to have better notion of these events than the other members of the family, except for Wednesday, but we'll get to her. Then we have Pugsley Addams, the older of the two siblings. He's a roughhouser, but he also seems to be something of a genius, but a dimwit at the same time. He has all these cool notions and ideas about how to devise torture devices, and I think that's pretty much it. He's very good at building torture devices, especially to be used against Wednesday. And he enjoys pain as well. Wednesday is always running these weird experiments on him and also just putting him in death devices or torture devices. He's a pretty cool guy, I suppose. Short, he's plump, and he has dark circles around his eyes. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be some sort of meaning regarding that, but either way, he's also kind of confused and oblivious to what the world around him thinks, but he's a bit more in line with what the world is like compared to Gomez. And we have Wednesday Addams, the younger of the two siblings. She seems to be the more mature one, and she has a perfect notion of what the world outside views the family like. Although she's very loyal to her family and likes doing the same things that her family likes doing, she always is the voice of reason between her family and the outside world. She understands, she builds the bridge between them. She makes sure that there's no misunderstanding between the outside world and her family. She is a lovely person, too. Uh, I wouldn't say she's quite normal. She's not, but she's sweet. She's lovely. She's a happy person too, in a dreary kind of way. But yeah, she's actually kind of happy. Heck, even her romantic side has been explored at some point. Yeah, she liked this guy who looked like he was like her, but turns out that he was just a fake, a phony. Then outside of that branch, we have Uncle Fester, who seems to be Gomez's older brother. Why he didn't inherit the money instead of Gomez, we don't know. And frankly, I don't think anybody cares enough to ask. He's very irresponsible, but he is the fun uncle. But I guess there is a correlation between irresponsibility and being the fun uncle. He likes to blow himself up. He writes superhero comics in which he's called Fester Man, and it's only when I grew up that I realized that his name literally means to rot. It's weird and grim, but it's amusing. So there's that. He's usually arguing with Granny because he doesn't believe in her supernatural powers, and she always proves him wrong. Although I also doubt she actually has any supernatural powers, but I think that's the whole point of the show. And we have Granny. I don't really know if she's related to Morticia because it seems in the original work she is related to Morticia and not the Addams family. But in this show, I don't really know what's going on with her, who she's actually related to. I would say that she's Gomez and Fester's mother, but the relationship she has with Fester doesn't really scream mother daughter. And we don't really get to see her interact that much with Gomez in order to establish the kind of relationship they have. Then we have dudes like Lurch. This guy is just so cool. I thought he was a normal person, but he's actually just a monster that was put together. He explained it in an episode where he talked about his dream, which was to be a cowboy. It was a very nice episode. My favorite episode of the show, by the way. He's their butler, and he always seems to be readily available whenever they burp, whenever they toot, whenever they roar, whenever they scream, whenever they cry. Like every time they pull that string that comes from the roof, or even when they're outside, they also like pull a string that comes from above. We don't know where. He's always there, right there, and he's like, "You wallowed," or "You rang," or "You screamed." And I like his voice. I also like the way he's just always groaning and grunting. Like he seems to be very unhappy, but he actually is a very happy person. Lovable too, and he loves being a part of the family. Sometimes he reflects the voice of the audience because he's like, seriously, are you guys seeing the same thing I am? Or do you guys think this is normal? And stuff like that. But other times he also enjoys inflicting pain on Uncle Fester, as they keep mentioning, and he also shows a very happy face when doing it. Then we have Cousin It, and he's actually a super cool super spy. His language is incomprehensible to normal people, but somehow Norman Jr. managed to understand him when he was disguised as an Addams family member when he ran away from the family that he grew up with, or rather his own family. He's just walking hair. Weird. Yeah, I know. Then we have the Norman Meyer family. They're neighbors from next door, and they're always trying to get rid of the Addams family in any way they find possible. Norman is always trying to hatch up an evil scheme, and then his wife, Normina, it's weird that he found somebody with that name. But she's also always tagging along with his plans to get rid of the family. Norman Jr. is the one that's like, guys, just leave them alone. They're just living life. You guys can live a life of your own too. But his parents always overrule him, and he has no choice but to just agree to what they're doing or saying. He doesn't really play along with it, so there's that, but he's always dragged into it because, well, it's his family's tradition. So now on to the show. The show is based on a series of short comics that were written a very long time ago. If I'm not mistaken, they were written in the 30s by a man called Addams. And he just used to draw these very short comics about the Addams family, a group of misfits that don't really gel well with modern society. And the show, well, the comic has been adapted throughout the years, turned into TV shows. There were movies as well. There are animated movies. There's one that's going on now, like an animated movie series, and it's a success. Actually, it's if it's not a box office success, it's a cult classic. But we all love the Addams family because they're weird, they're macabre, they're dark, and there's just a lot going into it. I love the show because it talks about family values. See, they're outsiders in a world that's completely different from theirs, but they get along so well, and it's like they don't really need anybody else. They do try to expand and show the world their way of life, but the world doesn't react nicely to it, for the most part. At some point, people that they interact with end up understanding and seeing that, hey, these guys are actually kind of cool. And as much as they hurt each other and do all these weird, painful things, it doesn't really affect them. And it's the way they show love to each other. Dangerous in real life? Yes, definitely, of course. I mean, we can die from half the things the kids do to each other in one episode. But either way, it's just wholesome. It's a wholesome family show. Like, seriously, these people are so much happier than the other families that we see in the show. And I think in real life too. They're close knit, they're united. They always try to help each other out, no matter what it is. Even if it means getting somebody to hurt himself just to make him feel happy. It's always there. They're always there for each other. And I think that's why many people actually love this show. It teaches family values. It teaches that in a world where everything is going to be against you, you'll always have your family to protect you. My favorite episode was the one where this guy who was an enemy of Cousin It, he seems to be Blofeld, but they can't really use Blofeld. So they used him. He's a guy with mechanical hair and he weaponizes it. It was a really interesting episode. It was my favorite, and I remember that from childhood. In fact, when I watched the show recently, I was just looking forward to that episode. And I'm glad that it was one of the last ones. It was very cool, action packed. And the first time we actually see Gomez behaving like a normal person. He got jealous because somebody was sexually attracted to his wife. And he just kept getting jealous throughout the whole episode. I don't think he's ever experienced people liking Morticia, or at least in that way, outwardly. Like a man turned into a savage. And for the first time in the show, and only time, Morticia was actually the one that turned animalistic and went for this.
Gomez, those are savage animal noises. Oh, make some more. Snarl. Oh, anything, darling, please.
Calm yourself, Tish. I'm just getting warmed up.
It was a really nice change of pace, and I was like, haha, okay, yeah, I got it, man. She likes him just as much as he does. Like, they are, well, what people say, couple goals. I don't like using that term, it's weird, but they are what people consider or would consider couple goals. They love each other to the ends of the world. And Gomez just showed that he was more than just a guy that's just living life laid back. He proved it. He proved it. He really did. The show is beautifully animated. The opening theme is memorable to everybody who knows the show. The closing theme is also funny. And I like how the episodes always end with a dance number. They just play music. And have you noticed that they always reject the first option and then go for either the second or third one? And there's always some weird condition for some of the music that they have to reject. Like, you haven't bathed since last Tuesday. Or, hey, it's not the first weekend of the year. Or something like that. Like, there's always some weird condition. And that's actually kind of cool. But, yeah. This show hits the home run in every way possible. It has a non-linear story, so it doesn't really have much going for it. It's just kind of a parody, just for fun. It's television for children. So there you have it. That was the Addams Family Talk by Hekate Media. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and, well, bring up if we left out anything, or if we could have elaborated on something better, or if we just got something wrong in the facts. Be sure to check out our Facebook page, or our Instagram page, or just have a look around our YouTube channel if you're not into those other social media handles. There's a lot that we do, and we appreciate your support. So go on and check us out.
Come over here. What? Me.
Big one Wednesday.